This is your place for all things Detroit Red Wings and all things Chicago Blackhawks. With your hosts, Jordan Linscott, David Barnhouse, Nick LePage, and Tim Stompanato. This is the Stick Blade Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since we've seen you all, so with that in mind, it's been a minute. A little bit to talk about on tonight's show. For your host tonight, Jordan Linscott, for my co-host, Nick LePage and Tim Stompanato. Everybody, welcome to the show. If you're not familiar with us, we're the Chicago Blackhawks and Detroit Red Wings podcast. We talk about all things regarding both teams. On the show topics for tonight, we're going to be talking about the prospect games that went down this past week. We're getting really close to preseason. Preseason actually starts next week, so we're going to really start seeing hockey in full swing as of next week. It's been a long off season. There's only a little bit more of this, and then we're officially back in the rotation. First things first, though, congratulations to friend of the podcast, Dave Radke. For anybody who's not familiar with him, he was a guest that we had on the show a while back. We talked to him and his brother about an analytics model that they were working on regarding like the chip tracking technology that the NHL used or the playoffs. And he's working with the Chicago Blackhawks now and with their analytics department. That's kind of cool to see somebody who we knew him before they got with a club like this. So awesome. Shout out to him. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely fantastic. Just with some of the new innovations and getting them on, I could have talked to them for hours with the way that they were viewing analytics and what they were bringing to the table, taking that and seeing that knowledge and that like those concepts, maybe go to the Blackhawks, see what they're going to have with him, with what they want him to bring to the table. Yeah, it's cool to get to say we knew him when kind of thing, but no, we're going to be rooting for him. That's too cool.
I think you're muted, Nick.
Where are you looking? Where are you looking?
But either way, like, I think it's really cool to see somebody get into an organization. And the thing is, like, he was obviously qualified. That's why they hired him. But to get to see like the genius before the genius got to work with a club like this, that's a really cool thing.
100%.
For tonight's show, like I said, we're going to be talking about the prospect games that happened for the Wings and the Hawks. A couple other pieces of news really quick, the hiring of Patrick Sharp for the Hawks broadcast team. And there's one other thing for the Hawks who's I'm blanking. Help me, Tim.
Hossa night.
Yes, Marian Hossa. His jersey will be retired on, what is it, November 20th, I believe?
20th against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Okay, so that'll be jersey retirement. So for anybody in the Chicago area who plans to go to that game, that'll be the jersey retirement night. In terms of Wings news, there's only really one piece of news that I want to talk about, and it's Simon Edvinsson. He's the player who a lot of people were looking at this season going, hey, this is going to be Mortsider 2.0. He's still slated to probably make the NHL roster, but it looks like this is going to be a transition year for him. He's probably not going to just instantly step in and be number one defenseman like Moritz Seider was. And you know what? That's okay. Not every player gets to do that. I mean, we were talking just a second ago, teams get that maybe once every 10 years. So kind of just talking about what that transition period might look like for him.
I was gonna say you almost don't. I know we're gonna jump right into this, but yeah, you almost don't want everyone to be able to jump right into the league. That might not be the best for his development. Seider, it would have been a waste to put him anywhere else.
I mean, let's just jump right into the prospects first. So the Wings and the Hawks prospects have already started playing games against other teams' prospects, and yes, it's kind of like the preseason, but it's not the preseason because you don't have quite all of your prospect pool they're playing. Just initial impressions, Tim and Nick, from you guys in regards to like what you guys saw from the Hawks prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the number one thing for me that jumped out, and we're going to get into some of the more specific, like the newer names, but it'd be crazy to not start on Lucas Reichel. Nick, we were talking about this a little bit. Man, he looks good. He's only 20 years old. He put on weight in the offseason. He worked on building his strength up, and he came into this prospect camp looking like a man among boys, which is super exciting. His zone entries were clean. He was, holding on to the puck, wasn't getting out muscled or anything like that. I was really excited to see that combination of speed, skill, and strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. It's looked like he really spent this offseason kind of. He wants to earn that role. He wants to start in the NHL next season. He doesn't want to be up. This is his chance to really take over. And hell, he could throw him right into the top 6 if it really all works out. And I like what I've seen in him. Like just seeing him in interviews too. You could tell he got bigger. Like he was a scrawny little thing when they drafted him. Like he was tall, but like a twig. So I'm really excited for Reichel. I think that next step is really gonna. I think he goes into the season with stride. Another name I liked a lot. I liked Samuel Savoie.
All right. I'm glad you're touching on him.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of like an Andrew Shaw type. He plays with an edge.
Yeah.
He does commit some dumb penalties. I think he's coachable though. It's coachable.
Again, that happens. Yeah, when you're young and you're trying to make that mark.
Yeah. You're like he's a high motor guy, and that's what the Hawks are gonna need. Like they've been missing a player like Andrew Shaw. Obviously, again, it's gonna be 2-3 years down the road, but he kind of plays high energy. He's all over the ice, like he's just buzzing. So it's a really interesting player to keep an eye on going forward.
Well, that's where I really, really liked the line that they had of him and Paul Ludwinski, second round pick in the 2022 draft. Man, that line was making space. They were flying everywhere. They were banging and crashing. They had enough skill there that it was like there was a justification for being on the ice. It wasn't just a wrecking crew. They could also clean up too. Really excited to see both of those guys. And I think they also had Michael Templey on that line a decent bit as well. So they had some of that like scoring finish on there. Good to see some guys. We heard Davidson talk about this. He's looking for motor. He's looking for high energy. He's looking for work ethic. That was a line that encapsulated all of that. And it was cool to see some forward lines from like these younger guys, especially they're ready to mix it up. They're ready to jump right in and make a name for themselves. That's exciting.
I mean, I'm trying to remember what's it? I'm blanking on the goalie who you guys have. Drew Cameso. Was he playing?
No, none of the college kids. So Frank Nazer, Drew Cameso, couple of the other, like they were all back at school already. Like their camps were already up and running. So this was all CHL, not American Hockey League, the national team and all that jazz. So it was all of them. The U.S. Hockey League.
Okay, basically like North American players.
Yep, exactly. The ones that aren't college were there. I'm trying to think. Defenseman, obviously Krasinski. Like, holy cow, kid's got wheels on him. Smooth skating, Nick. Like, I think that's the thing for me. Like smooth. The zone entries, he's clearly able to make the plays as an offensive defenseman. Obviously, the defensive side needs work, but we were saying before this, it's not, sometimes you watch a young defenseman like Boquist, which I love Boquist, but there were times where people were like, defense is going to be a very serious thing. We need to work on this. Krasinski, it just looks like he's a young defenseman. Yeah. Like the typical lapses that come with maturity and age and practice.
No, yeah, you're 100%. Like smooth skating. He fired one off the post in game 1, I want to say it was.
Yep.
So he has that offensive upside to him. You see it right away. I know everybody gets worried when the Hawks draft an offensive defenseman.
Because we've got 20 of them.
Yeah, and then like Boquist kind of leaves like a salty taste in your mouth or a sour taste in your mouth. But again, Korchinski's one of those guys that they're not going to rush up. Like he's going to there's no need for him to call him up. You got so many 22 and under defensemen that need a chance to crack on the roster. So I'm excited about that. I thought Vlasic looked awesome. I think he's one of those guys that makes the team. Yeah, I loved him. Even like I went to one game in person last year. I thought he took it over, and like he's one of those players that could really be a difference maker.
And with Jake McCabe out until at least December, January, that's a whole other spot. I know we had talked about Mitchell and Regula being the two most likely to like fight for spots with the big show. Vlasic is in there now. I think it could be any of the three of them coming up. Because you're absolutely right. Vlasic, I heard it described like he's not like Korchinski, where it's like, oh my gosh, phenomenal offensive defenseman, or even like Nolan Allen, where it's like, hey, he's a shutdown guy. You're not going to notice him, but that's a good thing. Vlasic feels like a solid two-way defenseman that can chip in a little bit offensively. He's going to be defensively responsible, and he's just a monster presence on the ice. Like, that's really cool to have variety in our defensemen now.
Yeah, they're all not 5'9", 170 anymore.
I mean, even Korchinski played the body a couple of times during the prospect games. Like, it's not like he's shying away from contact. He was mixing it up in there too. This was a team watching these prospect games. These were hungry kids. These were kids that were out here. Cole Gutman.
That's noticeable.
Yeah, the college free agent signing.
23-year-old undrafted free agent, kind of making a big name for himself.
It's great. He looks like he
could be a player.
Yeah.
He looks like he could be a guy. Like, not the guy, but a guy.
Doesn't need to be. You can't have a team of all the guy.
Just be a guy and you're good.
be somebody who shows up. Lunch pail guy shows up, does their job. That's what we want.
Locker room guy, guy's guy.
Yeah.
Just
a team full of Andrew Shaws.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
a lot of penalty minutes, but it's exciting.
Yeah, how many people can we fit in a box?
Yeah, just stick them all in there. I liked Colton Dock also. I mean, I know we only got to see very brief moment of him,
nightmare scenario.
Yeah, very scary injury. He's gonna be out for a little bit, but he came out strong, and which sucks. I mean, we've heard this story before. A Doc gets injured in the preseason,
like a Minnesota Wild kid trying to make a name. Yeah, like, I've seen this show before. But no, I'm with you. I thought he looked great. I think most likely he's going to be top 6 minutes in Rockford this year. And I think that's going to be phenomenal for him, frankly. For those of you that are Isaac Phillips and Jacob Galvis fans, they were healthy scratches. But the argument that I'm seeing left and right is the Blackhawks know what they have in those guys.
Yeah.
They've had their cup of coffee up with the show. They know their strengths. They know what they have to work on. Jordan, you touched on, this isn't like preseason games. These prospect tournaments are usually the first time that the coaching staff, and I think for most teams, it's the AHL coaching staff that like runs these games. This is their first chance to get a taste of, what do we have? Who are all these guys? And it's a chance for like other young guys like Reichel, Vlasic, who've been around, to say, hey, this is my next step. This is where we're coming into. Once preseason hits, all these guys will start working out with the team, doing practices with the team. Super exciting. Those that don't immediately go back to their, respective leagues. But like right now, this is the chance to see what we've got. And guys like Phillips and Galvis, we have a good idea. They're going to be good. They're going to be, they've got their roles, but it's, good to see somebody new.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to be happy. I mean, the Hawks, so obviously the Hawks lost first game 5-2.
Yeah, it went off the rails a little bit, but we lost Reichel and Doc in that game. Yeah. Like, that deflates you.
Yeah, they came out buzzing though. Had a strong period, and then what was it? The second game was 5-0.
Yep.
Yeah. So
goalies were a kind of a big deal. I mean, Jackson Stauber played the whole first game. He stopped 29 to 34 shots. 2 of those goals were scored on the power play. Another came out on a 2-on-1 rush. Like, you can't really fault the guy on some of those, especially in a prospect tournament. Like, and especially in a game where you lost 2 of your best guys, like, and they're two-way guys. It's not like they were, But no, Jackson Stauber is an interesting one to me.
Yeah.
He wasn't really on the list, and he's risen.
Yeah, it's one of those ones to keep. It's kind of like Lincoln, and he came out of nowhere from one little junior tournament. So it all comes back around.
Because what is
Jordan.
it, right? Oh, no, sorry. I'm trying to think. Arvidsson is good. Our Arvid Soderblom is going to be our number one in Rockford this year. I'm guessing Jackson Stauber's the backup in Rockford, because Mitchell Weeks, I think, is the third goalie, and he's just on an AHL contract. Like,
yes,
yeah, because Cameso's still at Boston, and I think that's I think right now the general thought is either Arvid Soderblom or Cameso is going to be that goalie of the future, but it's good to see them getting the reps.
Absolutely. So, I mean, all in all, really good prospect, couple prospect games against the Wild. Thrilled.
Yeah.
Jordan, while we're on the topic of prospects, so you got to kind of go solo for Detroit style tonight. But
that's all right.
We'll get to the Hawks news after. While we're on prospects, you might as well take it away about Detroit.
Let's do it.
So first off, the Detroit Red Wings prospect group actually looks really good. These 3 games that they got to play, they had a great game against Toronto, winning 4-1. They had another great game. What was it? It was 5-2, I believe. Yeah, I think it was the 5-2 game that they had, and then they had against Columbus, and then they had a not so good one against the Dallas Stars prospects. I mean, it was weird though. Like, out of everything that we saw, I think there were a couple of really key takeaways to make. I already mentioned it. First off, Simon Edvinsson. I know a lot of fans had him hyped up going into the season, hoping he's going to be more at Cider 2.0. And I've been saying this all season since we've been talking about him. That's unrealistic and unfair expectations. And he didn't dominate competition you would hope that he would have at this level. But that being said, he also wasn't just so standout awful. And is there going to be a transition period for him? Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be one. It's not going to be like Moritz Seider where he immediately steps in, can play top pair minutes stapled with your worst defenseman and just carry him. There will be a transition period here for him. And as much as fans don't like it, I think that's actually okay. I mean, we've kind of been talking about, processes with rebuilds for a while. Part of a process is letting your great players develop if it takes time. Other standout players, though, Piercy had a fantastic 4-goal game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he had a goal today versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Funny enough, Sebastian Cossa looked really good. I know a lot of people were grilling on him because of the fact that, he didn't steal Canada games at the World Junior Championships, and he was basically playing backup. But from what we saw, Sebastian Cossa actually looked really good in net. I really don't think he's far off from the Grand Rapids Griffins, and he's 2 years removed from drafts. So that's a good trend forward.
And goalies develop. Again, we talk all the time about how defensemen develop later than forwards. Goalies develop even later and on a weirder trajectory than anybody else. So the fact that Coase is where he is now, that's a big deal. I mean, look at where Carter Hart was, took the league by storm, and then people figured him out. It's not a bad idea for a guy like Cossa to develop at each level, learn how to take the highs and the lows like he is. Like, that's really good maturity.
Mm-hmm. Krasnanas, a player who I think a lot of Wings fans have been sleeping on, has been really good this 3-game stretch. And Elmer Soderblom, a player who I've been really high on, and he's kind of flown under the radar. I think he's like 6'9" or something like that. So pretty big boy. He got drafted in the 7th round, and a lot of people think, these late round draft picks, you're kind of grasping at straws, hoping one pans out, even as like a bottom 6 forward. I don't think he's due for the NHL by any stretch, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him make the Grand Rapids Griffins this year, playing on a bottom 6 role. And for a 7th round draft pick, that's awesome. But those are kind of like my big takeaways for it. I talked about Edvinsson a little bit ago. One thing that was kind of cool to see come up is like whenever he has a bad game, he immediately hits up Nick Kronwall or Nick Lidstrom to talk it through the game.
That's so cool.
Yeah, pretty good defenseman to talk to after.
Yeah.
But we've been saying this for a while on this show. Culture matters in the professional sports world. And I know a lot of people are like, well, the players determine how good your team is, but
yeah,
people who've left your organization who had superstar level careers and are willing to help your next group of guys out, that's criminally underrated in terms of a value. And we always say, teams have to find ways to get around the salary cap. That's a way to do it, is having superstar players for your prospects to talk to and get walked through with these development games or processes. I think it's a good sign looking at the Wings that these players are sticking around with the club, and it bodes well for their next group of players.
100%. And you're like, culture is everything. Jordan, you made a great point. Like, it's awesome if a guy comes in and he's got all the talent in the world, but what happens when he has an inevitable bad game? Is he isolated? Does he not know how to respond to it? Or does he have people he can turn to, like some of the like Cromwell and Lindstrom, where you call them? It's like, hey, what do I do with this? It's like, oh yeah, sure. You got you've got support. You're surrounded by people, and it's not just random people. It's superstars. It's role models. It's kids coming into the Hawks and looking up to Jonathan Toews and saying, so how do I get myself, how do I get the right energy to like go into this? And he's like, oh, cool. I'll show you how to like do this. That culture takes really talented players and turns them into like a support system and all that. Oh, it's night and day that you've got that. That's so good.
We can jump over to the Hawks news, because you guys actually have a piece of news this week that, what was it, 2 weeks ago it broke, about Patrick Sharp?
Sounds about, 2 weeks ago. Sounds right.
Patrick Sharp,
like a year.
Yeah, off season could be a week, could be a month.
The beautiful man himself, Patrick Sharp, is going to be joining the broadcast group. I mean, I kind of joke with people, God always tells people you either get good looks, you get athleticism, or you get wealth. And he got all three.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trifecta with him.
I think, God could have like gave a little bit of his genetics to over here, but I got screwed, I guess. No, I mean, shout out to Patrick Sharp. I'm thrilled. It's all, it's tough to replace a guy like Eddie O. I know we already gave our eulogy to him, so we're not like, this is not about Eddie O.
Still hurts, but yeah.
Yeah, but like Patrick Sharp is just the right guy to do it. Like he was here at the start of a rebuild, like or in the midst of a rebuild, I should say.
I was gonna say him and like Keith kicked off the rebuild, essentially. Him, Keith, Seabrook, because they traded for Sharp in 2005. 2 years before Kane and Toews joined up. Yep.
No, so yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled. I think he's a voice like Eddie O. The reason why we loved him so much, he's a voice you could trust. I think Sharp's another guy that is a voice you could trust. And he can get away with calling them out. Like, I think he's a name that not only, will we listen to, but like Eddie, he can walk that line between being a fan, being a homer, being a team guy, and also having the credentials. I don't think anyone's going to stop him from saying, like, I don't know what they're doing here. That's not, why are they doing that? You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. He has a respect factor throughout the organization, which is massive. Which, on the other side of that coin, he'll be splitting the responsibilities this year. I think they're doing like a 50-50 basically split of games with Troy Murray, another fantastic former Blackhawk, and someone who has fought and is, fighting cancer. Like, it sounds like the cancer's in remission, stuff like that, which is absolutely fantastic. The fact that he is well enough to do half the games is beyond cool and exciting. I know Sharp wasn't really, last we had heard, wasn't really sold on committing to a full season. This sounds like the best of both worlds for both of them. And it gives us two very trusted. I mean, Troy Murray, I grew up listening to Troy Murray when he would be on different things. So like, yeah, this is awesome. This is a good, you're never going to replace Eddie O, but these guys don't have to replace Eddie O. They can be themselves. Yeah, no, 100%. They're two trustworthy people that we've heard on our TV a lot. We watched it on our TV a lot. Older Hawks fans got to see Murray quite a bit. Yeah. Light it up. But I mean, Patrick Sharp was essentially our version of Troy Murray, I would want to say. Actually, that's a very fair comparison. Yeah. So I mean, I like the hiring of that. I think it's good. It's good for the broadcast team. Again, this is a big transition year, but that kind of takes it easy on like on our episode before, like our last real episode before the draft, we were talking like it's there. This person's not here. The next person is stepping into Eddie O's shoes. Like it's gonna be so hard to judge. But Patrick Sharp is a perfect.
Yeah,
Patrick Sharp and Troy Murray. Sorry, let me give flowers to Troy Murray as well.
absolutely.
Perfect duo to come and really take over this next era of Blackhawks hockey.
The thing is about both of them is like they've both got the credentials. I mean, like you were saying, Tim, to be critical when you need to be critical. I mean, Patrick Sharp was in Chicago for the rebuild. He's been on bad teams. He's been on great teams. Same with Troy Murray. Like they can look at games and be honest about how they're going.
I forgot that Sharp came back. Remember, he didn't, because he came back.
He went to Dallas.
He went to Dallas after 2015, but then he did come back for like his last season.
Yeah.
Awesome. So he has literally seen all of the ends of the Hawks from the start when we were the dark ages, all through the dynasty, leaves, comes back, and it's like, what is this? This is not the team I left. And again, Troy Murray, again, he was on the Blackhawks under dollar bill words. So like, what are you going to do? Like, he knows. I'm really excited. That is one of the things that I look forward to with this season is getting to listen to them and their insights.
I forgot before at the top of the episode, there is one other piece of Wings news to talk about. Philip Zadina signed a 3-year contract with the Detroit Red Wings.
I think it's such a good deal. I know there's some people that have a beef with it, but like, yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
It's a really good deal.
So what is it? It's just a touch over $1 million a year. I can't remember the exact dollar.
I think it's 1.5.
Either way, it's not an expensive contract.
No, it's like a Brandon Hagel contract. It was like 1.5 for 3 years.
Like it is the definitive bridge deal that turns into a prove it deal by the final year. I know a lot of fans are polarized by him, but $1.5 million for a guy who's playing like worst case scenario, bottom 6 for your club.
Yeah.
That is such a good contract for 3 years. And if he still hasn't panned out by then, you just cut ties and let him go. Worst case scenario.
I was going to say, would you say his floor is like bottom 6 defense, like good two-way play? Like, I feel like when he's not scoring and doing all the things that like he was drafted for, he developed a very strong two-way game, and like he's defensively responsible. Like 1.5 mil for 3 years for a young defensive bottom 6 guy is what most teams look for.
And like, that's the thing is it's locked in for 3 years. It's 1.5, just pretty cheap. And the guy, like they had to coach the defensive game into him. That's a given. Like if you watch actual tape of him when he first came into the NHL, his defensive stats are pretty awful. Like, but he's gotten better and he's became more of a setup player, which, and we talked about this a little bit just off the show, but he's going to get a chance to play underneath a new head coach. So it's one of those things where he might get put in a position that plays better to his offensive strengths. Like you might be able to see his production rise, even, I don't know, we say the 20 goal mark this season, right? Because last year he was shooting around a 5% mark and he ended up with like 8 goals. You figure if he goes to 10%, which is about a pretty normal league shooting percentage, that puts him at 16. Given, the odd break by a goaltender, you're sitting somewhere between 16 to 20 goals for 1.5 million. If he goes back to just the league average shooting percentage, that's not bad.
No, yeah. And let's not forget the weapons Detroit added too. So like, he's not going to be as pushed upon to carry a line. Like they added a lot this offseason and a lot of veteran presence as well. Like there's other scoring threats on the team now. And like Zadina is pretty soon, Zadina's gonna be one of those guys that like teams are going to start forgetting about, like not game planning around. And I think he's going to light it up. I really do.
Well,
I think this is a steal of a contract. Like he might put up 50 points this year. No problem.
100%. Well, they also didn't have Jacob Vrana for over half the year last year. They've added new talent. They're getting talent that they planned for that didn't have last year. You're 100% right, Nick. I think this is going to be a steal of a contract because I do think it's a matter of when, not if, he shoots up. He might never be a first line guy, but to be a middle six supplemental scorer for 1.5, are you kidding me? That's great.
This is looking like a steal. I mean,
It could be wrong. Could be really wrong.
Could be, but like the natural ability is there. The raw talent's there. I think he had some bad puck luck too. Like I think like his analytics are pretty good, and it's just like his finishing just wasn't there.
I mean, like you could watch it on the tape last year. How many times he was sitting slot side on a goaltender, wide open net. He shoots the puck, and the goaltender makes a crazy reach glove save and gets it. Any other time, that would have been a goal.
Yeah, he had some weird luck last year.
He passes the eye test, that's for sure. And analytics like him. I think it's a good sign. I think it's a really good sign.
Like I'm trying to think because like the Wings will have Dylan Larkin, Andrew Kopp. Pius Suter gets knocked down to third line center.
That's where he should be.
Yeah.
But like a real third line center. If Zadina's playing third line with a good two-way center, I don't think 20 goals is unreasonable.
Right? If your third line is Pius Suter, Dominic Kubalik, and Zadina, that's a cool third line.
Like
you can even throw Perron on there.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, you've got Perron.
Yeah, because they added Perron, they added
I would be surprised if he's not top six, but like also I'm very curious how they're going to structure because where's Veleno? I mean, that's the question I always ask you, but like
he'll have to be playing fourth line this year. I can't imagine they play him anywhere in like the top six. And I don't know if he's good enough to boot out Pius Suter as a 3C. So
and I don't think he's good. Like I think Rasmussen has a better chance of booting him out for 3C than Suter. I don't know. Or than Veleno. I don't know. That's a tricky one. But you've got the good problem of having a lot of options.
But back to the Zadina signing, though,
Yeah,
I think this
please.
is such a good signing. It has the potential to just firework out of nowhere.
100%.
It's a home run. It's a home run potential signing.
And the thing is, like you always hear the phrase, the players gripping the stick, they're trying too hard.
Yeah.
When you're inked for 3 years, you don't have to grip the stick. You've got some patience. You can be a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for?
You can relax a little. You don't have to be in your head.
Yeah, like you can be like more collected with your plays. Like you don't have pressure on you. Crap, I have to go out this game and I have to produce.
But it's also not high enough or long enough that you can necessarily check out.
Yeah,
there's
like
some guys that play for a contract and then we see him disappear. This is not a contract that he can afford to do that with. Like it's enough to keep him hungry, but it's also long enough and stable enough to let him relax. This is a great move.
Like this isn't the Anthony Mantha 5-year, $5 million deal where after he has that, he's set, he can do what he wants. And we kind of saw that with Mantha. You won't see this with Zadina, I don't think. And if this contract does blow up and he just never reaches, the 15, 20 goal pace that we think he can get to, $1.5 million for 8 goals a year is still perfectly fair in the NHL.
Absolutely. Not to mention, you can always get a GM to take a swing and do a trade on a first round good pedigree, first round pick. You can swing a trade for him for some GM that thinks they can save him.
Yeah, when Sam Bowman comes back in the league eventually. There you go.
That's exactly where I'm thinking.
I don't think I have anything else for the Wings. Do you guys have anything for the Hawks?
I mean, the only thing. What'd you say, Nick?
Oh yeah, Marian Hossa. Sorry, his retirement.
Yep.
So November 20th, Marian Hossa will be having his jersey hung from the rafters at the United Centers. He said it's against the Pittsburgh Penguins, right?
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, Detroit's the home opener. The Atlanta Thrashers don't exist anymore. Pittsburgh is the other team that he went to the finals with. Like, it'll be a good. Crosby played with him. Like, that'll be a fun game. That'll be a really cool game. And much deserved. I mean, Nick, I know we went back in the past and talked about, okay, they're retiring Hossa. Does that mean they retire? This opens a door here. But if we take all the implications and what that means outside of the room, man, he deserved it, right?
Yeah, dude. I
He's
mean,
the
I know.
best.
Yeah, it was a discussion last year, and it kind of got brought back up on Twitter this year. Some Oilers beat reporter was like, he never recorded over 61 points with the Hawks. Like, this is what deserves a jersey retirement. I'm sorry, he was one of the best two-way players of all time.
He'd
dude.
have
I'm
like
sorry,
5 Selkies if he was a center.
Yeah,
Let's-
I'm sorry that you Oilers fans don't know what a two-way forward looks like. That you're used to just seeing pucks getting buried in your net and offensive talent. Just they put up high points, but they're like minus 13 on the year. Hossa has a three-time Stanley Cup champion. He changed the course. If you don't sign Hossa, who knows what happens? Do they win one? Maybe not.
He's the best free agent signing, I think, in Chicago sports history.
100%. He helped lead them to 3 Stanley Cups. I know it opens the door. Like, okay, well, what cuts the list? I don't care. He deserves it. He is what really turned the page for Blackhawks hockey in Chicago in 2010. Kind of turned the whole page. Like, I mean, 2009 was a great season, but like, if that season doesn't happen in 2009, they don't sign Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa doesn't want to go to the Blackhawks. But that season happened in 2009. Hossa signed. That's just another weapon, and the rest is history.
Oh, man,
so I'm excited. It's going to be probably one of the only sellouts the Hawks probably have this year.
I would guess that as well.
But no, it's great. I think it's going to be very cool to see. Like, it's going to be Taves, Crosby, Kane, Malkin. They're all going to be.
I mean, that's going to be. I mean, yeah, exactly. He played with some of the greatest hockey players of our generation. Like, that's so cool that he's gotten to see all that. He played with, again, between the Red Wings in 2000. What was it?
Yeah,
Red Wings in
2009.
Because he was Pittsburgh in 2008. Played against and lost to the Red Wings. Signs with the Red Wings, loses to Pittsburgh. Then he comes to us. Like, he's played with some of the all-time like tops. And I'm excited to get his biography that friend of the podcast Scott Powers helped write. Like, that's super cool.
It's very awesome. It seems like things are on the up and up with Hossa. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait to actually read that. It's gonna be
I'm stoked for it.
Scott's a great writer. Hossa has many great stories I'm very positive of. So, like, this is awesome. I'm excited. I mean, so happy for Hossa. Obviously, it was supposed to happen last year, and then kind of everything unfolded the way it did last year. But I'm glad they got a makeup date in it, and gives a reason for Hawks fans to show up.
Gives us a reason to be excited right now, which is a great thing.
The last thing I kind of want to talk about, we're about a week away now from the preseason finally starting. With that being said, what are you guys looking for from the Hawks out of the preseason? Because the regular season is going to be, several month stretch of like just really looking at and evaluating the stuff that you have on your team right now, and probably getting players called up from your system to see actually where you guys are even at in your rebuild. But the preseason, what are you guys looking for out of that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Honestly, I think my biggest focus is going to be on which young defenseman is going to go grab a spot. Like, we kind of have a sense of what our forwards are going to look at. I think there's just with McCabe out. I know we gloss over that. He's out to like December.
Yeah, that's the other piece of Hawks news.
Yeah. It's
like a spinal surgery, right?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal to see, especially getting injured in Buffalo 2 seasons prior. So that leaves the door open for 3 defensive spots open, like 2 or 3 at least.
Yeah, because DeHaan's gone, McCabe's out, Gustafson's gone. You've still got Murphy, Seth Jones, Caleb Jones, Riley Stillman.
But those aren't locks into the
no, certainly not.
Yeah. So there's potentially 4 defensive spots open as well as the extra 7th defenseman you'd like to keep on your roster. So it's gonna be a dogfight. I'm excited. I like a lot of good young names that we've been keeping an eye on for a while. So I don't know, names like Ian Mitchell, obviously, our
Ian Mitchell, I think, is still probably the top, because he was Rockford's top defenseman last year. And just seeing him play in some of the games that I got to see with going to Wolves games, he looks like it. He looked like Rockford's top defenseman. Him and Regula were, and I think he's the other name along with Vlasic. Those are the three in my mind that are going to be fighting. But realistically, like Jacob Galvis, I think could easily be our seventh defenseman, a guy that you can put in. He's got
100%.
skill. He can defend. To your point, Nick, I'm looking for what I'm most excited about the preseason is seeing who makes the coaching staff's job difficult. Who's the guy that comes in and he's not part of the plan? And all of a sudden he has to be part of the plan. Like if they've got their mind made up, like, okay, our bottom six is going to be Entwistle, Hardman, yada, yada, yada. Here we go. And somebody kicks in the door, Cole Gutman, might be the person. Reichel, I know that they said Reichel, they want the next time they have him up, they want him up for the year. They don't want him up and down. So I think right now the mindset is he's the number one Rockford center. Maybe he comes in and says no. Maybe the way that he plays in the preseason has them say he needs to be playing up here. That's the thing that I love. Gustav Forsling did that a few years back where he was not part of the plan. And all of a sudden Q's just like, wait a minute. I like this guy. And it did kind of hurt Forsling for a bit, but that happens every year. There's a guy that like shows up and it's like, who are you? You're not part of this. Now you have to be.
Yeah. I mean, Slagger's out of college now, right? He signed, right? No, he did not.
Slaggert's got one more year.
All right. Never mind then.
Because that's I would love to see him, but I think he'll be in the NHL next year. I don't think he will be doing Rockford time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a guy like Josiah Slavin. Is that a name you want to keep an eye on?
That's a name that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on. And he's a name that throughout the prospect tournament, coaches have been high on. Again, talk about the like dream story, 7th round pick, does everything right, works himself hard, plays the game the right way. I think realistically, he could force himself into the bottom 6. Maybe be like a Marcus Kruger type as a 4th line center or something. Like, I don't think that's unrealistic.
No, I'm 100% excited. This is it's as really as excited as you could get for the Blackhawks this year. It's like it feels like the COVID year all over again, where it's just going to be experiment after experiment, and that was kind of fun. Like they shocked us.
Hey Nick, pop quiz. As we're getting into preseason, pop quiz. Peter Mrazek is our goalie. Who's our backup?
Alex Stelak.
Nicely done. I was like, there's no way way he knows. Because it took me, I had to look it up. I was like, who's our backup right now?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the signing of that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a guy.
That is a guy who plays hockey.
Yeah.
So I think the other preseason story is going to be, is Mrazek healthy? Does he look like the goalie that like at one time he was hoping and expected to be? Or is he going to be a guy that lets us get Connor Bedard?
You took the words right out of my mouth there, Tim. That was going to be, I know everybody, before we get over to Detroit, I just want to do one storyline we're kind of looking at. I know everybody is going to be talking about Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves. Like that's going to be the
whole year. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm shocked we haven't actually seen it as much as we have yet. I thought it'd be like every day that passed. It's like, what's going on? Like all you see Friedman is like comes out, tweets every once in a while. I was like on vacation. No, got an update on Patrick Kane. Still no decision. Thanks, Freeman. Glad.
Oh, I could tell you that too.
Way to get the retweets there, buddy. But no, I think a storyline that I like for a lot, as well as like a rookie head coach handling all that storyline business. Like you said, Mrazek. This is his chance. Like this is really his last chance. Like he has 100%. This is his chance. Like he's going to play behind a struggling defense. This is his chance to go one more time to earn his way to a competitive team. Like this could be a good move for the Hawks as well. Like if the Hawks might luck out with the trade. Like if Mrazek looks anywhere near decent, like maybe even stop some great high scoring danger chances, makes amazing saves, keeps the Hawks in games they probably shouldn't be in. He becomes a team that's buying for a goalie. They're looking at Peter Mrazek like he's not a 1A, he's not a 1B, he's probably a high 2A, high backup goalie. But like he's one of those teams, if a goalie goes down, that's the first guy you're looking at if he's having a good season.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've seen Mrazek firsthand because he played with the Wings for however many years with Jimmy Howard. I don't expect Mrazek to be stealing games for the Hawks, but when Peter Mrazek is hot and he's just on his game, he is unstoppable. It's just, can he get to that point for the Hawks this season? Because we saw stretches of it in Detroit where he looked like a Vezina caliber goaltender, but then you also saw stretches where 4 goals, 5 goals, 5 goals. And that's going to be the $1 million question for him this year.
Yeah, I'm not saying stealing games. Like he's not a stealing game goalie. Keeping them in games from like what could be a blowout to we only lost by 2 tonight. It should have been 7-1. But no,
could he play well enough that we could get a third for him at the deadline?
That's what I'm thinking. Like a 3rd round pick. Like you can flip a guy like Mrazek for a 3rd rounder if he's playing well enough.
That's what I think.
He's not in the Toronto media anymore either. Like Toronto pressure. That's the worst market to play in ever. You have no expectations. You have no expectations this year. You're going to be on a rock bottom team. I'll get into that maybe a couple weeks from now when we get to our preseason or our season preview. I'm kind of worried the Hawks might not be bad enough for Bedard. That's a different story.
The Arizona State Coyotes do exist, so they're going to be bad.
I think Mrazek's more interesting of a name than many people are really thinking about this year because you could flip him if a team's desperate enough for a late second, but because he has 2 years on his deal left, right? I think it's this year and 1 more year.
That sounds right.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not in Toronto no more. There's no pressure. Now's the time to earn your way to another competitive team.
This is off topic, but I'm even trying to remember who did Toronto grab for a goaltender now that Freddie Anderson's gone
Matt
too?
Murray.
Yeah, Matt Murray. Peter Mrazek 2.0.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they got Matt Murray.
And
like from the Ottawa Senators, right?
Yeah, as a 2-time Stanley Cup champion Matt Murray.
And Samsonov. They got Samsonov.
Actually, Samsonov is the one I'm excited about.
Okay.
Because realistically, no, I think as of now, the conventional wisdom is Matt Murray's the starter.
Yeah, I mean that's how. What's his face? What's the GM over there?
Dorian.
Kyle Dubas.
Dubas. Yeah, he stays loyal to the Sault Ste. Marie guys, or is that where they came from?
I think so. Samsonov actually has a ton of talent. I like he was supposed to be the starter in Washington for a couple of years, and I don't know. He had some injuries. He just didn't sort of play solid. A change of scene could be. I mean, I've never heard anyone say a change of scene to Toronto was what they needed. That sounds like a nightmare. But they're already going after both of them. Like, what a nightmare place to play hockey. No wonder Austin Matthews looks like he doesn't care about anything. But yeah, that's their goalie tandem. So that's
I don't even watch the Leafs, but I kind of want to watch now to just see if their forwards can outplay their goaltenders.
You say that Matt Murray might be. I mean, he was good on Pittsburgh.
I mean, if I'm wrong, I will happily eat crow and say that Matt Murray is a better goaltender than I give him credit for. But I
feel bad because something went wrong.
Because Campbell went to Edmonton now, right?
Yeah, Campbell's in Edmonton.
Yeah. So
and that's an upgrade for Edmonton.
Yeah,
they've got their own choices that I got opinions on, but
I mean, it's just. I don't know. I don't think these goalies are Stanley Murray. Yes, Murray did.
Murray is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah. No, I know that. But something went wrong. Something did go wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the yips. So I don't know what happened. It just went all downhill. Wasn't he waived last year?
Yeah, and nobody picked him up. I mean, he clearly his play struggled enough that he didn't re-sign in Pittsburgh when he was up, which is how he ended up in Ottawa. Like, he didn't get traded. Like, they signed him in the offseason. I don't know. I mean, when it comes to feel good storylines, I hope he finds it again. Like, you love to see something like that. I don't know what the struggle is there, but something went wrong. I hope the best for him. Toronto media is not exactly the place to find yourself, though.
No. You have one bad game, and guess what? You're So yeah, I mean, that's another interesting storyline. I mean, it's holy hell. Like, I know we say it every year. Toronto, your time's ticking, dude. Like, you gotta this is the like even if you don't get out of the first, you don't get out of the second round this year, you're probably gone.
They've got like Matthews only has like one or because I thought he signed a 3-year deal.
Yeah, he signed the short one. Like I think it was like a 5.
I think it expires in 2025.
Okay, as I say, the years are ticking on the Matthews deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going back.
I wouldn't. And you know what? I've said this a couple times. I know I hop on my soapbox, but like, you don't owe anything to the team that drafted you because they were bad enough to be first. Go where you want to go. It's the only sports is the only profession in the world where you don't have autonomy over like where you go. So like, I think it was cool of Tavares to leave the Islanders. I think it'll be cool when Austin Matthews leaves the Leafs. Like,
he goes to the Coyotes to go back home.
Yeah, exactly. Like, cool. I think it was cool that Kane and Tays stayed with the Hawks for as long as they did, not because they had a sense of like loyalty, but because they were having fun and like this is where they wanted to be. Like, I just hope Austin Matthews does what makes Austin Matthews happy.
Yeah. While we're in the Eastern Conference, Jordan, we talked Leaf storyline, we talked Hawks storyline.
Yeah.
Do you have a storyline? I know we talked a lot, like could be a steal in Zadina's contract. Is there a storyline you're kind of looking out for the Red Wings as we're approaching training camp? Or
I mean,
for the season or preseason?
The big thing for the preseason, I think, is going to be, can Jonathan Berggren show the coaching staff that he needs to be on the NHL roster? Because last year he put up fantastic numbers at the AHL level. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that I think he's better potentially on the fourth line center than Joe Veleno, which he put up better numbers than Joe Veleno did in the Grand Rapids system. And as much as I like Joe Veleno, I would rather see Berggren there if he's better suited for that position. The other one is, based on what we see of Simon Edvinsson at preseason, how much is Detroit's coaching staff gonna trust him with ice time at the show if they decide he's coming to the NHL? Because like I said, it's not going to be a Moritz Seider style transition for him. I do think there's going to be a transition period of him playing bottom 4 minutes. And Detroit got a lot better this offseason with their defensemen. And I was saying this on Reddit for a while. They picked up, who is it, Ben Sherratt? Yeah, Ben Sherratt.
Yep. I was just going to say, I think that's his pairing partner for the early part of the season.
I know people want, defensive pairs that play both hands, but I honestly think that pickup was for Simon Edvinsson because I think they might have seen it on the wall that he wasn't going to have that transition that Moritz Seider had to the NHL level, where he immediately stepped in, was immediately the number one defenseman, could carry anybody. I think that the Ben Sherratt signing was for this transition period, and I'm curious how much coaching staff's going to look at him and say, we think that you're good enough to be playing third line or second line, or you're going to be playing, second power play unit as the extra man, as opposed to saying, okay, we're going to trust you with penalty kill minutes. We're going to see, how are you playing on, a top 4 role consistently. That I think is going to be the big takeaway for the Wings. Those two storylines right there.
Are you worried about outside of preseason? You're worried about sophomore slumps?
I'd be wrong if I said that I didn't think that Lucas Raymond is going to have one. I think he will. I think a lot of his success last year, even though he was good, I think it was because the league just didn't see him coming.
I don't know if it's going to be a sophomore slump, but I do think that now leagues have tape on, every team has tape on him. and he's not going to be coming out of the blue. Now he's going to be doing the thing sort of like he's going to have to get creative and adjust. When teams have an answer for him, how does he adapt? That's what makes a superstar in this league. So that's what I'm curious to see from him this year.
And I think the important thing for Lucas Raymond is a lot of people are, they're pumping him really hard saying, hey, he's going to be a superstar player. I want to see how he looks when he's not playing with Dylan Larkin, because Dylan Larkin is one of those players who makes everyone around him better. I want to see how he looks when he's not playing with Dylan Larkin, who's feeding him pucks or helping cover for like his defensive lapses. I want to see if he can still be as productive.
On that note, I want to see, it's like the Brink at the year that his scoring sort of dried up, and that's what he was famous for. What do? You're going to go through scoring slumps. How do you still play the game? How do you bring it every night on the ice? How do you contribute if you're not scoring? That's going to be really cool to see in his sophomore year, how he evolves as a player.
But yeah, Detroit, like they have a lot of good pieces coming, but there also are some question marks about some of the current pieces that they have coming up through the system. What's going to happen with them? Because, I mean, like you said, Nick, they spent dollars this offseason in the free agency pool. And so there is real competition for those younger guys to actually push players out of, slots in the lineup. There is no assignment by default. There is now, you have to earn your spot.
Right.
It's a good spot to be in, though.
Exactly. That's the right.
Competition's the best. Inter team competition's the best because it brings the best out of everyone.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like the storyline for the Wings going into the preseason. Does Jonathan force the coaching staff to say, hey, we need to make a place for him somewhere? And also based on what they see, what are they going to be willing to, trust Simon Edvinsson with during the regular season? And then does Lucas Raymond look as good without Dylan Larkin? Because him and Dylan Larkin were stapled to each other all season last year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, dear. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. It's going to be a nice year. I don't know. I think the Red Wings, like I said, I think they are scratching and clawing at that wild card spot. I
think so too. I think that it's not unrealistic to think they sneak into the playoffs this year.
I hope it does for our sake. It'd be fun to have playoff hockey again. If it doesn't happen, I do think that they will be close, though. I think they'll be right there.
Definitely.
I can't foresee them having a meltdown like again this year, just given the acquisitions they made.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they got weaker anywhere.
No.
No, they definitely are probably one of the most improved teams in the league. Like they've improved as much as you possibly could in a year, a rebuild year. What was I saying? Like this is I've been here for 3 years, so this is year 3 of the rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it 5 years? How long?
No, he's only been here for 3 years.
Holy shit!
But the rebuild itself has been like 5 years.
Yeah, the rebuild has been a 5-year.
I think this might be. I really think this is the year Detroit either makes it or they're like last team out.
And I'm hoping for that. I think it is a realistic expectation for this club. There are expectations this year going into the season that, hey, they need to be hanging in games all throughout the year. There shouldn't be any of these blowout games or anymore. And if there's a blowout game, it needs to be once in a great while, not a consistent stretch of them.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be once in a while. I mean, other than that, I just want to say congrats to Kirby Dach. Nice little extension for him in Montreal. So
hoping the best for him for sure.
Montreal, I kind of sneaky like. I think that. I think they have a decent squad.
I had them going to the Cup Finals last year, so I'm not saying nothing on Montreal this year.
They could be like Colorado, though, how they were competitive for a while. They had that one weird freak year where they were awful, and then they're right back in the mix.
Honestly, Marty St. Louis changed that team this year. I'm very excited to see what they do. again, out of the Canadian teams, I think Montreal's probably my choice if I had to pick a Canadian team. I love them. So let's go.
I mean, they got Sean Monahan.
Doc and Suzuki.
They got Sean Monahan now.
Yeah. Doc, Suzuki, Sean Monahan, Jake Evans. Like that's good center depth.
Yeah, and then you got Cole Caulfield,
Brendan Gallagher.
What's his name? Jude
Hawkeye.
No,
that's we've got him.
I know you guys
the
have
first
Kara.
overall pick.
Slavkovsky.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Jesus Christ, holy cow. We're a little rusty here.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting back into it.
I mean, before we wrap up the show, I guess we're coming up on our season preview of one of my favorite shows of the year.
I love it. I'm so excited. Make some outrageous predictions.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the show. There's nothing else on, as far as I'm aware, on the docket to talk about. Like I said, preseason is going to be starting next week, so we'll finally start getting games next week. And then after the preseason, it's off to the races, boys.
There we go.
I mean,
thank for Bedard, baby.
Lose hard for Bedard.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be our show for tonight. For anybody who's tuned in and either listened or watched, we appreciate you guys tuning into the show. At the end of the day, it's a podcast by fans for fans. There's no corporate sponsorship or anything like that. So it's kind of fun just getting to say what we think and, get real opinions that don't have to, appease people. For your host for tonight, Jordan Linscott, and for my co-host, Tim Stampanato and Nick LePage, this has been another edition of the Stick Blade Podcast. If you guys liked us, feel free to check us out on all the social media platforms. We're all over the interwebs. So feel free to give us a like, follow, share, whatever the currency is of choice on the platform you like us on. And we'll catch you guys back here next week, hopefully right before the preseason starts. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and stay safe. We'll catch you guys back here next time. Take care.